Right? When people start making these antennas, their dogs start sitting next to them. I've seen cats start sitting next to them. I've seen other animals come around. I mean, it's funny, if you just carry copper, animals will pick up on that.
If you look at the works of Dr. Emoto, when he was doing his water work, he would not only just speak or pray or meditate with water, but he would also stand essential oils next to it. And again, the patterns that these crystals would form were extraordinary.
It's always, like I said, fear, 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 fear. We're still here. We're still breathing. It's still beautiful. And we're still here connecting, which is the most important part, because every connection makes a change.
Welcome to The Wellness Way with me, Philly J. Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of The Wellness Way. And I'm so excited. I can't tell you about my guest today. I started following him right from the beginning of 2020, and this man gets out extraordinary information, just extraordinary. So I'm going to introduce you to Matt Roeske, and he founded something called Cultivate Elevate. And he is on a mission to educate and empower individuals, and just to show us all that there are always solutions. So without further ado, Matt, I would love to bring you on. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Right. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your story, please? How you got into this?
So I originally got into this. We started Cultivate Elevate to bring change and, like you said, to get rid of the fear and help provide solutions. But used to have a lot of health issues, and never could figure out what they were. When I started changing out my diet and going all organic, being aware of what's going into my body, all of my health ailments that I was suffering from, such as bloating, such as tonsillitis, such as fatigue, such as whatever it may be, all went away. And I was like, wow, this whole entire time, it was just what I'm putting into my body. And I wasn't aware of the toxicity that I was placing into my body. I was going to Whole Foods at the time. I was buying organic, the things that I thought of what was correct. And as I started to basically change, and we started cooking from scratch and started changing everything, when we founded Cultivate Elevate, we wanted to bring superfoods to the market as well, to start healing the body even faster. Because what I realized is we can go to the store and purchase, let's say, an apple, but the apple is not the same as the apple from the 1900s.
I think I saw a statistic the other day that you actually have to eat 42 apples now to get the same nutrients that you would in the 1950s, which is shocking, absolutely shocking.
Yeah. So, and then when you look at that, like that stat you just said, that's a lot of apples, and that's going to be a very hard on your stomach. That's for sure, because it's like drinking a lot of apple juice. So what we started doing is I started bringing superfoods into the world, but I started realizing it doesn't work like that. We need a great balance of everything to heal the body, and that's kind of, in a nutshell, Cultivate Elevate.
So just talk about how the vibrations work, would you, Matt?
So when we get into frequencies, we can look at, for example, there's healing frequencies like touching the earth. I saw your video, you were barefoot grounding and touching the earth and connecting with the earth. That's the healing frequency of the earth, right? Certain stones also resonate at certain frequencies. So one can be very healing on this side, one can be toxic to the body on the other side. But it's interesting because everything is a frequency, right? Everything is moving through a invisible light in which we cannot see, right? We only can see with our eyes, and we can only pick up on certain frequencies in the visible light spectrum, but all of this stuff is all around us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm going to talk to you about LEDs here, because when I discovered this information, I was really shocked. And I tried to change all of the lights in my house from LED back to red light, but they have made it illegal in the UK. We are only allowed to have LED lights now. You cannot buy the old-fashioned lighting. What do you do about this? If you've got no choice because your government has made a law that dictates that you have to have LED lighting in your house, what do you do?
So I don't know if they have halogens. Do they have halogens, or can you have halogen lights?
Can't get them anymore. To get a building sign off, building regulation sign off on any property, you have to have LEDs, and everything else has been wiped from the supermarket and the electrical store shops. You just can't buy them now.
The other option would be candles. And the reason I say that is because the candle would give you the perfect red light spectrum that the body still needs.
But it's challenging. I'm going to pick you up on the candles then, because I love candles. But the majority of candles in the UK, and I presume this is the same in America, are made of soy wax. And we were talking earlier about GMOs, and 85-90% of the world's soy is GMO and pretty toxic. So I always worry about lighting candles.
That is a situation. If you can opt for beeswax candles, that would be a better option. Or even they used to do tallow back in the day. It would actually last forever. They would make a tallow candle, and that would be another alternative. But yes, unfortunately, with these soy candles yes, you could be burning, for example, glyphosate and other pesticides up into the air, which could lead to some air pollution as well.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about crystals. And I saw a great post about crystals. Somebody had made these crystals with bolts and bolted in copper pipe work. So can you tell us the connection between copper and crystals, and how it can actually raise the energy vibration and the amazing things that it can do?
So with copper and the different types of crystals, so what you're doing is you're creating antennas, right? They're atmospheric antennas, and they can help raise the energy levels in the area in which they're placed. Now, copper is very healing. They used to use copper back in the day. They would take copper and they would weld it to somebody's wrist. So that it would stay on permanently. And that was to get rid of inflammation and arthritis. That was the easiest solution. They just took simple copper, put it around the wrist, and it was gone. And we've had hundreds of messages on Telegram about how copper has actually alleviated so many people's pain, right? Because what it's doing is it's your cells are spinning one way, right? And then when they're in a toxic frequency, and what you're doing is you're helping them spin back to their natural frequency. That's what copper is doing. It's also emitting the same color as the sun, which is a very healing light spectrum for the body and for plants and for animals and everything that's pretty much in the same category. So when a person is wearing copper, they're wearing that color spectrum. And this goes into color therapy and all the stuff they used to do, right? Depending on even what you're wearing, the color depicts the mood that you're in as well. So copper is very healing for that. Crystals, on the other hand, if you go to quartz crystals, they're loaded with a ton of silicon dioxide. So they have a lot of oxygen in there. And they also resonate at the same frequency as water. If we go back in time, you got Tiffany & Co., right? Tiffany & Co. is the jewelry company that everybody knows about with all their stuff. They studied into gems. They studied into gold, silver, copper, all these materials. That's why they put certain ones together. If you look at like the Chanel, go back into Chanel time, they use gold, they use certain materials and all these things. You look at all of these materials, they all resonate at certain frequencies, and each one can be healing on a different level. But with the structuring of what you just described, yes, you could structure water with quartz as well. You can take your cup of water, place clear quartz into the water, and it will begin to structure, because water will take on whatever is in it or it is in, right? So anything you place water in, that's why drinking out of plastic cups and plastic materials is actually toxic to the body, because the water will take on the plastic and all the chemicals and all of that, because it's conscious. So if you put quartz in your water, you can actually structure your water. And then back in the day too, they used to take, for example, a copper or silver spoon, and they would rotate it through the water, spinning it 7 times or 8 times to the right, 8 times to the left, so that they could structure that water and bring back that structure. And then they would pour it on their plants, and their plants would be very happy, and then their plants would go crazy. And all of this was studied, like I said, back in the 1900s, 1800s, 1700s. They were big into materials because they understood the resonance frequencies. And when you look at, if you go into all the people, they have crowns on, right? Like a lot of people have crowns, whether it's a king or a queen, and those crowns are loaded up with copper, gold, jewels, and all types of crystals, or purple. They wear a lot of amethyst because, they're trying to open up the mind. So all of these things, if you look at what they're wearing, there's a reason for why they're wearing it. And it's because of the frequencies that they're harnessing while they're wearing these materials.
And if you look at churches, the old churches in the UK, and we have some kind of 400-500 years old, they all have the beautiful stained glass windows to sit in front of. They all have metal spires on the top, again, taking that energy up. They all have beautiful candlesticks on the altar, again, gold, covered in jewels to bring that energy in. They also burnt frankincense in church as well, and synagogues, because, again, essential oils have these incredible energetic vibrations that we don't really talk about now. And if you look at the works of Dr. Emoto, when he was doing his water work, he would not only just speak or pray or meditate with water, but he would also stand essential oils next to it. And again, the patterns that these crystals would form were extraordinary.
When people start making these antennas, their dogs start sitting next to them. I've seen cats start sitting next to them. I've seen other animals come around. I mean, it's funny, if you just carry copper, animals will pick up on that. Everybody's land has different frequencies. Everybody's gardens have different frequencies. But the cool thing is you can combine also additional things like crystals and quartz and stones and all of these things together to amplify that energy that's coming off the antennas in which you're creating.
Brilliant. And what I did when I saw it last year, unfortunately, it was going great gun. And then the bloody deer got in my garden and just ate my whole runner bean crop. But I built a runner bean frame to trail the runner beans up out of willow. And I covered that with copper, and they just went mental. And I think the deer just kind of went, oh my God, what's happening in that garden? And they got over the fence and ate the whole bloody lot. I was so pissed, I can't tell you. But, I live in nature, and you have to kind of accept that those things happen.
What I was going to say on that topic is that's what will happen too. More animals and more things, more bees, more grasshoppers, more pollinators, more butterflies, animals, and all of these, everything around can pick up on that frequency because they can see all these frequencies. So the other thing too is with those deers, they know that that's the healthiest food, right? So they come around and say, I'm going to eat that one. I'm not going to go eat that other person's, backyard or whatever, because they understand the frequency of the food. And the coolest part is when you see just bees come around and they just are always around and they come and land on you and things like that, because they understand the frequencies that are happening all the time too. This is all on a frequency. And that's why I say it's on a spectrum in which we cannot see with our eyes, but animals, birds, bees, fish, all those other things can all pick up on this. And we have to be aware of that.
So if you've just got a balcony, what kind of plants would you recommend? And if you've got a larger garden you're growing, how far apart would you put these copper and wood vortexes?
So usually a 2-meter copper antenna will cover 225 square feet, which now I have to do the calculations, but it's 80 square feet. 80, now I'm just butchering it. But either way, if you use an antenna and you can do a small one, you can do one maybe like half a meter, right? So 1.5 feet. So you can do one, probably about 1 or 2 will cover your balcony because your balcony is not very large. Nothing special. I just put the copper antenna in there, water it, gave it the intention of love and that. But that was it. And it just, the pods were gigantic. And the average pod is usually about 6 inches. The pods I measured them were 14 to 22 inches.
If you are enjoying my work, please sign up to my webpage, phillyjlay.com, and you will receive my newsletters and an exclusive Walking Into Your Future meditation. And if you buy my course, The Wellness Way Faster Class, Your Natural Wellness Journey, you will get 2 amazing free bonus gifts. My Wellness Awakening album and a video on how I make my herbal teas. And for the full, completely uncensored videos of my podcast, you can come and find me on my Rumble channel, where my guests still have freedom of speech. And join me on my Locals community channel, where I will be building my community and starting my weekly Zoom calls for the price of a cup of coffee a month.